We are told our entire lives that being smart is the ultimate advantage. Get good grades, go to a great school, and you'll be set, right? Well, today we're diving into an explainer we're calling The Intellectual's Guide to Financial Ruin. And we are taking a direct, no fluff look at exactly why incredibly bright people consistently, and I mean constantly, sabotage their own bank accounts. An economist, a doctor, and a lawyer all went broke. Here's the exact psychological reason why being smart has nothing to do with being good with money. Now, I know that sounds like the setup to a really bad joke, but this is a genuine, heavily documented mystery that we are going to solve today. Let's look at why this actually happens. Part 1. The intelligence contradiction. Why smart people go broke. Look, it turns out that your IQ and your financial success have almost zero correlation. Zero. Intelligence is absolutely fantastic for helping you pass exams, but it does not protect you from money traps. In fact, studies show that high earners across elite professional fields, we're talking medicine, law, academia, they file for bankruptcy at rates exactly comparable to the general population. Earning a prestigious degree does absolutely nothing to lower your risk of financial ruin. The wild thing is, the very brain power that gets you through medical school or law school actually makes you a massive target for 4 specific psychological traps. Let's break those down. Trap number 1, overconfidence bias. So the smarter you are, the more confident you naturally become in your own reasoning. And hey, in a university lecture hall or a courtroom, trusting your intellect is a great thing. But in the genuinely unpredictable financial markets, it is incredibly dangerous. Consider long-term capital management. This was a hedge fund managed by 2 Nobel Prize-winning economists. This wasn't a couple of amateur day traders in a basement. It was run by literal certified geniuses. I mean, these guys wrote the financial formulas that everyone else studied. And because of that, they thought their analysis was so airtight, so intellectually rigorous that their algorithms couldn't possibly fail. No way. Well, $4.6 billion. Let that sink in. That is exactly how much money those certified geniuses lost in under 4 months back in 1998. $4.6 billion. And here's the kicker. They didn't collapse because they lacked intelligence. They collapsed because they were absolutely 100% certain they were right. It just goes to show that absolute certainty causes smart people to make massive, fatal bets rather than safer ones. Moving on to trap number 2, complexity as a status symbol. This is where human ego really starts to mess with the math. High earners are disproportionately drawn to incredibly complex financial products. You know the ones: structured investments, highly leveraged portfolios, completely convoluted tax schemes. When you give a brilliant lawyer or academic the choice between a boring basic index fund and a highly complicated multi-asset strategy, they usually scoff at the index fund. They think, well, literally anyone can do that. I'm smarter than average, so my strategy needs to reflect my high intelligence. They actively choose the complicated route just because simplicity feels kind of beneath them. It's really an ego trip disguised as a financial strategy. But what do they actually get for trying to be the smartest person in the room? The results are incredibly ironic. They end up paying way higher fees to manage these complex assets. They take on totally unnecessary risk. And the cherry on top? They perform worse on average. These smart investors systematically underperform everyday people who just put their money into a simple, boring fund and leave it alone. It is a textbook case of outsmarting yourself. Which brings us to trap number 3, permanent lifestyle inflation. This trap is tricky because it sneaks up on high earners precisely because it feels so entirely logical. When you start earning more money, it feels like proof that the system is working, right? So spending more just feels completely rational. It usually starts with a very reasonable sounding thought: I've worked hard, I've earned this. This isn't some irrational, impulsive shopping spree at the mall. It's a deliberate decision made by a very smart person who can intellectually justify the new luxury car, the bigger house, or the private schools. But that reasoned justification ultimately backfires. Let's put this into perspective. When a doctor earning £150,000 permanently inflates their lifestyle to spend £140,000, they are falling into a brutal trap. And here's why. Lifestyle inflation is permanent, but income is not. By anchoring their massive spending to their massive income, this highly intelligent, highly paid professional leaves themselves exactly one bad year, one unexpected health issue, or one market downturn away from a total financial crisis. And finally, trap number 4, optimism about future earnings. Now, Intelligence highly correlates with high earning potential. That's a fact. But that creates an aggressive temptation to spend against income that hasn't actually arrived yet. You probably heard the classic excuses. I'll clear this debt when I get the promotion, or I'll start saving after this big project pays out. Having a high intellect makes people exceptionally good at constructing convincing arguments to debate themselves right out of financial discipline. And because they are usually right about other things in their lives, they completely believe their own excuses to kick the can down the road. So, what does this all mean? What's the real variable here? If massive salaries don't automatically build wealth, and having a high IQ actually traps you in these 4 destructive psychological patterns, if being incredibly smart and earning a huge paycheck clearly doesn't work, what actually does?
Well, let's dive into the solution, the automated system.
The counterintuitive truth is that the people who consistently build wealth do not rely on being incredibly smart. They definitely don't rely on having ironclad willpower in the heat of the moment. Instead, to successfully bypass our inherently flawed human psychology, they remove the human from the equation entirely. Step 1. Set up automatic transfers. The money moves before you even see it, so you literally can't spend it. Step 2. Buy boring index funds. Ignore the complex status symbols entirely. Step 3. Establish strict spending caps. Give yourself concrete boundaries so you aren't constantly draining your willpower. There's absolutely no fluff here, just strict, unbreakable systems. Make the decision once and automate it. That's the whole shebang. That is the ultimate fix. You have to humbly acknowledge that your powerful intellect will absolutely fail you in emotional, high-stakes financial moments. You just cannot trust your big brain when it comes to your money. So, you must build a machine that runs completely without it. Your brain is your biggest financial asset and your biggest financial liability. The trick isn't to think harder about money, it's to think about it less.